Greetings one and all. Welcome back to my channel here today for a very different video, as you've probably already ascertained from the title. I want to be talking about what happened about a week ago. So today is Father's Day, Sunday. Last Sunday, on the 31st of August, there was some protest marches held around our state capitals around Australia, dubbed the March for Australia. And I've kind of left it, I ummed and ahed about making this video for over a week, and I'm kind of glad I did, because if I kind of made it the night after or the day after those marches, you'd probably be watching a quite different video and I'd just be ranting and raving. And now, a week later, like I say, Father's Day, I've had some pause to reflect a little bit. I'm still not happy. I'm still very, very upset by what happened last Sunday, and I'll go on to explain why a bit. But first of all, for those of you that may have missed it, it's been on all the news and everything afterwards. There were marches held, like I say, around the state. They were sort of flag waving, nationalistic type marches, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But what happened was, probably in nearly all the marches, with the possible exception of Brisbane, there were far right Nazi, neo-Nazis took over a lot of those. Well, nearly all of them, like I say, except for Brisbane. And there was some very ugly footage of them getting involved in physical violence. But the trouble is, the organisers of this march made it out as if it was going to be a peaceful march, where the whole time they were actually in cahoots with the National Socialist Network, and it was just a big ruse. They made it out to be a moderate, nationalistic, and sort of left it deliberately vague, other than to say it's not about Nazism, it's not about white Australia, and they were lying.
It is basically the idea of demographically replacing the founding stock of a host nation under the guise of economic stimulus due to declining birth rates.
We need to have it start with a 5-year pause, see how that goes. Then we need to
Okay. Our forefathers at Federation were crystal clear about why they were federating this nation and for whom they were federating it. It was for those of us who are here today and those we represent, Anglo-European Australians.
Indians, Africans, Chinese, all here to exploit our lands. Assimilation was a lie. We must organise to save Australia. Thank you for coming. Blood and honour.
We will fight for a white Australia.
India is home for the Indians, Africa is home for the Africans, and Australia is home for Aussies. White Australians, we need a home.
And there's lots of evidence of that. There was evidence of that before it even took place, and there was lots of warnings about it. Lots of, that's why not many politicians went, with the exception of a couple. I'll talk about those in a sec. Because they didn't want to be associated with it, knowing that the organisers were basically trying to dupe everyday Australians who did have grievances, various grievances, cost of living, pressure of house pricing, the housing crisis, other things. There were people there who were counter-protesting the peace rallies, the pro-Palestine peace rallies, lots of things like that. So causes that I don't necessarily agree with, but you know, people have got the right to go out and have their say on those issues. But the trouble is, like I say, they were duped into going to this particular event by far-right extremists, basically so they could be a backdrop to the far-right, to the Nazis, to the white Australian racists. And yeah, the fact that what I'm trying to say after a week of slowing down is what I initially was going to say was, yeah, you're all a bunch of dead shits, basically, for going to anyone that. My initial thought was, you go to a march and you know there's going to be neo-Nazis there. Well, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I was concerned, you're one of them. You're marching along beside them. You're standing in front of them while they talk. But I've come down from that stance, and I know a lot of everyday Australians who aren't racist, who do have genuine grievances, went along to that march. They wanted to show some nationalistic pride. They're concerned about the levels of immigration, and that's a perfectly reasonable debate. The numbers of immigration, not necessarily ending migration, full stop. Yeah, and for those of you that think I'm just sort of pulling stuff out of the air, I'll quickly tell you, the organisers of the national wide rally was a lady called Beck Freedom. Well, she goes by the name of Beck Freedom online. She took over the idea. Initially it was started by a young fella who made a TikTok calling for a march, and that was in response to, I think it was to the one of the pro-Palestinian marches, the Big Harbour Bridge one. And this lady, Beck Freedom, she jumped in, said I can help organise it. It became too big for the young fella basically, and he didn't want anything to do with it. So she took over the organisation. She did the permits for the rallies, and she handpicked state leaders to sort of lead each state. She did Sydney, and the Sydney one was particularly bad for the the neo-Nazis getting airtime on stage, in front of the marches, all that. And like I say, there was probably a lot of people at the back of the marches wasn't even aware that all this was going on, but you were the backdrop to what was going on. Let me play you a clip, a soundbite from Beck Freedom talking about that tactic of basically leaving the details of the march really vague, making out it's kind of benevolent, just Aussies, everyday Aussies having their say. But she's discussing this with the neo-Nazis, the NSN members. Let's listen to Beck Freedom.
You can't, bend the knee, because I said this in my post. The two major cohorts are the boomers and the migrants now. So young white people, even if you're in your 30s, even 40s, right, you're being outnumbered by everyone. So yeah, it can't happen.
100%. I think, look, the messaging, we just need to, and look, I understand why some people are saying, oh, it's not about race. Though people like that, they're scared.
Yeah.
But if we break it down, this is how I tried to explain it to somebody. I said, okay, so protect Australian heritage, culture, way of life. Next step, protect European culture, heritage, way of life. The next step is protect white heritage. So it all means the same thing. It's just different ways to put it. Australian heritage, by saying it that way, it is more appealing to the public. It's going to deter them from saying, oh, it's a Nazi rally, blah, blah, blah. That's all it means. Australian is white, is European white. Like it's I don't understand. I think the problem, put it down to here.
The reason I'm saying I feel it needs to happen is because we need violence. I'm sorry, but we need fucking violence. We've done peaceful. Peaceful hasn't done shit. I don't think that anything significant is going to change unless something like that does happen again. And but it's just the facts. Like it's until we stand up and do something like that day, I think that it's just going to be repeating.
And then, like I say, the vast majority of politicians, even very right-wing politicians, they didn't fall for it. They knew they were smart enough to know what was going on. They didn't want to be associated with it, and quite rightly, it would hurt their brand. Although, with the noted exception of two politicians, and there'll be no surprise to a lot of Australians to know that Pauline Hanson was one of them. I was actually giving her credit up until a day or two before march on the 31st because she had so far refrained from encouraging people to attend or making any comment about it. But I guess in the end, she just couldn't help herself. And then once having attended, she, and we all saw what happened. There's no denying the vast majority around Australia of the rallies were taken over by Nazis, and a lot of people that aren't Nazis joined in. That's another thing they're doing. They're just trying to rope people into their movement, sort of guising it as all one big movement under their leadership. But yeah, Pauline Hanson was trying to afterwards justify her presence at one of the marches and claim there was no violence. That's particularly funny.
So Australians will want to get out there now that they know these peaceful rallies can be held around the country and feel that they show their support.
It's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to go.
What the fuck? Are the doors locked? Yeah, they are. Oh my god, I absolutely hate
They are
this
awful.
place.
And speaking of no violence message, the other sort of prominent politician that was very outspoken about attending the rallies and stopping immigration. I'm just laughing because of the anti-violence take by the organisers and that. Yeah, Bob Katter. He's your role model for peaceful non-violence.
Well, you've got Lebanese heritage yourself.
Oh, mate, don't say that, because that irritates me, and I punch blokes in the mouth for saying that. Don't you dare say that. My family have been in this country for 140 years, right? So if you say anything like that, I have, on many occasions, punched blokes in the mouth, right?
Indigenous leaders have condemned neo-Nazi thugs who stormed their camp, assaulting women and hurling abuse following Melbourne's March for Australia. As Mark Santomartino explains, police are investigating it as a racially fuelled act of terrorism.
Expelled from the CBD, neo-Nazis charged toward camp sovereignty.
Jesus.
In a swarm of black, they snatched flags, damaged property and ganged up to assault young Indigenous women. All of them rallying behind a self-proclaimed white nationalist.
Look at him, how proud he is. Look at him.
I was there screaming on the megaphone, "Get off her, get off her." They stormed us. It was a war front.
Thomas Sewell is a notorious neo-Nazi who hours earlier was gifted the stage on the steps of State Parliament, addressing, then leading a crowd of thousands in a so-called March for Australia, protesting immigration before attacking our First Nations people.
Australia's a racist, huh? What the is this? This is our reality.
That's an act of terrorism that happened here yesterday.
So guys, like I say, I mean, I did hesitate. I'm still hesitating today. I still haven't 100% made up my mind if I'm going to release this video. I'm going to make it, see what it looks like, see if I sound like a lunatic or whatever. I don't really care. I've obviously got very, very strong reasons why it upset me so much. And today being Father's Day. Is there a kangaroo coming? Here comes a kangaroo! Hey! It's a kangaroo! I'm back in Australia! So I just thought I might fill you in a bit on my background, why I might be, getting a little bit emotional as I talk about these issues. And again, this is for people who don't know me. I met a lady in 2023, a lady by the name of Sharon, who happened to be Kenyan. We fell in love. We got married early 2024. She already had a young daughter named Hera. And Hera was about a bit over 2 when I first met her. And now Hera is, she'll be 5 next February. So I've known, I've been in Hera's life like more than half her life. Sharon and I are still madly in love. We, while I'm here in Australia working and she's in Kenya, we video chat daily. Hera gets on those video chats. And it's a bit heartbreaking sometimes because I need to be here to work. I get back as often as I can, as often as we can afford to take time off work and travel back. But basically we're in limbo land while we're waiting for our spouse visa, which was it's a long process. It's a bit of a cruel process. It's very elaborate. It's very expensive, and it's taken a lot of work for us to even get our application in to a standard that hopefully it will get in. But we're told it can take anything up to 2 years for it to be processed and approved. And it's just heartbreaking. Hera gets on the line sometimes, and a few times, she's been crying. She wants her daddy. It's Father's Day today. As far as she's concerned, not as far as she's concerned. That's the reality. I have been the only father figure in her life, and she's precious to me. I mean, as is my wife, but at least, my wife, who's an adult, she can process, that eventually this is all going to be over and we'll be living our life together and live happily ever after. But for a small girl, 4-year-old, it's difficult to explain why daddy can't come home every night, why daddy is, I'm 14,490 kilometres away as the crow flies. It's heartbreaking. And when I see people marching, go back to where you came from, send them back. We don't want you if you're from certain countries, if you've got black skin, F off. Don't ever want to see your race again. All this sort of stuff, singing, chanting such filth. Yeah, it's upsetting. It's cruel. And I've always been fairly a passive sort of guy. I don't tend not to try and get angry and lose control of myself. But last Sunday I was watching it. I couldn't stop myself. I was watching live streams from the various rallies nationwide, and they're pretty well. Even the Brisbane one, that was, like I say, was probably the only one where the organisers did manage to stop. Those Nazis were definitely there, but they did manage to stop them getting onto the stage and having like free reign on the microphones. And but there was still disturbing elements there, and people saying things, people being interviewed in the crowd, saying horrible things, and they weren't the Nazis. Or some of those people were just your, quote, everyday Australian, unquote. And again, I know not everyone there is like that. I'm not saying they are, but it's just upsetting. And I thought I should explain why I've made this video, and I just want my expectations have been like, I don't know, when my family do get here, is this the sort of thing we're going to be faced with? Am I going to have to explain to my daughter, to my wife, why there's people out on the streets saying you should go home because you're from a certain country? It's just, I can't believe that this is my country and this is happening. And I believe strongly in free speech. I believe people have got the right to say what they want to say, but I also believe in consequences. There's consequences for your speech, and I don't feel like being passive anymore about it, about people who speak about my wife and my daughter as if they're just nothing more than a skin colour or where they're from, without even knowing them, without knowing what a loving... My wife is one of the hardest working people I've ever met, and she can't wait to get here to Australia and work, and she's wanting to do any sort of work. She's the work that a lot of Australians don't want to do. Like, I work in the health industry, and let's take one example: aged care. 40% of workers in aged care are on temporary work visas from overseas because they can't get the workers in Australia to do this work. So you people saying send them back, I hope you haven't got relatives in aged care facilities or getting home help packages, funded by the federal government, because there won't be anyone to administer that care. There just isn't the people. It's just illogical and crazy. And anyway, that's enough of that. I promised I wasn't going to lose it. I waited a week so I wouldn't lose it. So, yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. It's like I say, it's very different. If you've turned off, no problem. I do just want to say, like, maybe posting what I'm posting right now, if I do post it, and I have a strong mind to, as I'm talking to the camera, if I do post this and I lose subscribers because of what I'm saying, it's no problem at all. I'm not upset by that one little bit. If I lose Facebook friends, hopefully I won't lose any real life friends. You people know me, you know my situation, you understand why I'll be saying what I'm saying. It's quite obvious. And if you decide to unsubscribe or unfriend me on Facebook because you don't believe my wife and my daughter should join me here in Australia, and especially if that's because of where they come from or the colour of their skin, then good riddance. You're not missed. You're no friend of mine. In actual fact, you're the opposite of a friend. You're my enemy, because I love my family very much. I love my wife, and what more can I say? It's stating the obvious.